Hi all, my name's Jane Orlett, and we have Fabio with us as well. We're going to be talking about OpenJDK today. Let me just get the screen. There we go. All right. Is that up okay? Can we see that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, guys. So we're talking about how to keep OpenJDK 8 with support and security updates through the next couple of years because of the changes upcoming in January. So Fabio's going to talk about that, and he's also going to take any questions as well. We've had a few questions from the community already, and so he's going to be addressing those towards the end. But also feel free to come with your questions during the talk. I'll be monitoring the chat, and I'll give those to Fabio to answer as well. The recording I will put onto YouTube as soon as I can, and what I'll do is I'll send out a link to everyone who registered where you can access that. As I said, today Fabio Turizo is going to be our speaker. So if you're ready, Fabio, you may take over.
Okay, sounds good. Let me start by sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
Okay, let's start. So as Jayden already introduced me, my name is Fabio Turizo, and I'm glad to be here with you. So while we be talking about today, we'll be talking about these main 5 points, and the first one will be Payara and its relationship with the JDK. What constitutes JDK support in the terms and the context of support for enterprise Payara server installations or Payara platform installations? How to choose a JDK with these upcoming cadence release changes that were made by Oracle with the announcements for JDK 11. What is Zulu JDK and how it factors into all this context. And lastly, we'll talk about its relationship with Payara Enterprise support and the benefits that all of our customers, our potential customers, will be receiving or are receiving already. So let's start. Let's talk about Payara and JDK. So from the get-go, the obvious setting, and as you may know already, all products of the Payara platform runs on a JDK. So you need a JDK, either a commercial offering or a open source offering in order to run any of the products of the Payara platform, either Payara server, Payara micro, or an application that is using Payara embedded, or maybe you're using the Docker images, so internally those will use a JDK. So we have a list of compatibility, but about which JDKs are compatible with Payara server. Most of them are. Specifically, if you want to run Payara 4 on an IBM system, you will need a specific version called Payara Blue, but that's outside of the scope of this conversation. Mainly Payara Platform 5, that means server, micro, and all of their products will be are compatible with JDK 8, and that is a requirement. So if you are thinking or are running Payara Server 5, you are probably using a JDK 8 that is compatible, either provided by Oracle or it's OpenJDK, or maybe you're using Zulu already. For Payara Platform 4, that is still on support, there are 2 versions. One that is compatible with JDK 7 and another that is compatible with JDK 8. The main difference is that the one that is compatible with 7 doesn't offer any of the microprofile API stuff, since microprofile has a requirement of using JDK 8 at a minimum. So keep that in mind. If you're one of our customers and are using JDK 7, you may know this already. But that support is only available for you and other customers. So if you're in the community and are using Payara 4, you have to migrate to JDK 8 if you have that requirement. And lastly, the elephant in the room that some people have already mentioned in the community and some of our customers as well. What about JDK 8 and superior? So we're skipping versions 9 and 10, since those are already out of support, since they have already been superseded by their next version, and the current version will be JDK 11, which will be the second LTS or long-term release, the long-term support release that has been made available by Oracle. At the moment, we're working hard in making it compatible with Payara Platform 5. It will come in sometime in 2019. We can offer you at the moment an exact date about it because it has been a challenge in order to implement all the internals, specifically solving some of the challenges posed by this API internal removals that have been made by the modularization introduced in Java 9. So keep an eye on our releases and our marketing emails and all of our notifications. Maybe it will come earlier, maybe it will come a bit late, but we are guarantee you that we will work hard in implementing it over next year. So choosing a JDK. So if you're running Payara platform product, then you will need a JDK. So until JDK 8, Oracle JDK was the de facto choice of the market. So it was easy as a developer, or as an instructor, or for example, if you are teaching people how to implement stuff with a Java EE server, for example, you could just tell them, just go to Oracle webpage, download the current update of the ongoing version of the Java development kit, and just use that to run your application server or any other applications. It also comes with an optional commercial support. That means that companies that wanted to be assured that their specific problems and any security vulnerabilities that they wanted to have fixed would be fixed by purchasing a specific contract from Oracle, and then they had access to that, and they were assured of all their issues being fixed at some point. But that wasn't a requirement for any production or development environments that anyone would want to implement. So it was specifically free to use on those. So you could just download the Java development kit, the binaries, install it in either Linux or Windows or any environment that it's compatible, and just run it out without having to worry about incurring any violation of the agreements, because it was completely free to use it. So the general goal was to download it, develop it, and off to production you go. So that's that was exactly what most developers did until JDK 9 come along. So what happens, for example, when you wanted to use an alternative? Because on some instances, there were some environments that were incompatible, or for example, you wanted to do something specific inside the JDK, but you couldn't do it because you didn't purchase a contract or a support contract with Oracle. So the alternative was, still is OpenJDK, which is an open source implementation that it's derived from the Oracle JDK, but they are not the same, or at least they were not the same until JDK 9 come along. The idea is that it was an open source implementation. You can see all the codes, the source code of all the JVM and its internals implemented. You could contribute with your own commits if you wanted to fix something specific, or if you detected a security vulnerability and you have the confidence in implementing those fixes by yourself. So you could contribute to the project and make that available for anyone in the community. And the idea is that it's that was one of the options, that if you didn't want to purchase support, or if you wanted to implement things that couldn't wait until the next public update, for example. So one of the critical things to know is that it was not the same. So for example, in earliest Glassfish days, the recommendation was if that you were using Oracle Glassfish, you could just download Oracle JDK. But if you downloaded OpenJDK, there were some expected bugs, since the kits weren't exactly same in the binaries. There were some subtle differences here and there. So that was something that you had to keep in mind. So OpenJDK has no official commercial support. That means that if you are using OpenJDK and you want to pay a provider in order to fix stuff for you, then there was none available. This is maintained by the community, so you have to switch to another provider in order to feel that assurance as a company. So the get-go was to go from Oracle, or if, for example, you had a Red Hat Enterprise Linux server or an arrangement of servers in your infrastructure, you could go to Red Hat, and they are also commercial support providers for OpenJDK in, of course, Red Hat Linux systems. And if, for example, you could go to Azure systems, which we are mentioning now in a minute, and they could also give you a support contract for Zulu and OpenJDK itself. So there are some important changes to Oracle JDK that have been already implemented. And starting from Java 9, there is a new release cadence for the releases made by the Java development kit. So until JDK 9, there was a major version every 3 or 4 years for the Java development kit. The development of the development kit was quite slow because it has to go under a rigorous process, which implied that all of these features had to be not only designed, but had to be approved by a consensus. And it was quite a bit bureaucratic and slow. So starting from Java 9, there is a new change on the process of implementing new versions of the Java development kit. That implies that the idea is to release things faster. If there are not features completely designed or approved until a release is made, that's not to worry. They will come for the next release when they're ready. But the idea is that every 6 months we will release. The community will release something that is made available for everyone, and that it's productive, that it gives Java developers the sense that the technology is moving onwards and it's catching to the standards required by the industry. So every 6 months there will be a new release. The idea is that there's one in March and another in September. Each release will receive support for 6 months, and I type this in quotes because that support line is important. Support and the means that all the providers and the committers and contributors to the repositories of the JDK are agreeing that they will continue developing and maintaining the implementations for fixes for the specific release. So all of this will receive support for 6 months, except LTS releases. So long-term support releases are marked as a consensus. That the idea is that every provider will start working on maintaining that release, either implementing changes to the OpenJDK version of the repositories, or their own private or forks of those repositories. And the idea is that they will implement fixes, that they will implement backport fixes if needed, and they will make those available for only long-term support releases. This is not an agreement to guarantee that to customers, because every customer will receive separate benefits depending on the provider that they're having, if they have a contract. But if you are in the community and you don't have a support contract, then you will have to keep in mind that only long-term support releases will keep receiving updates. But there are some catches to that. So there are also some changes to the JDK builds provided from Oracle. As I mentioned it, until JDK 8, you could just go and download JDK 8 and you could use it free completely in production or development environments. Starting from JDK 9, there is no free alternative to use in production from the Oracle itself. So there is a commercial build that is usable in development environments or for personal uses. That means that you can download it. If you are developing your applications, you can use the Oracle JDK inside your machine, with some restrictions, of course. And when you need to go and deploy those applications into your production environment, then you will have to use another alternative. Or you can purchase a support contract and a valid license from Oracle, and then you're good to go. You can use that environment depending on the number of calls on your agreement. And there is also an OpenJDK build. That means that Oracle, aside from also contributing to the project, is not offering builds made by them that are completely usable for all environments. So that means that you can use the OpenJDK builds in your development environment and use them in production, so you can expect any worries from violating license agreements. But that means that from now on, you have to be careful. If you are developing with the Oracle JDK and you were just simply downloading that and implement it in your production environment, for example, in any cloud infrastructure, you can't do that anymore, starting from JDK 9. And the new updates from JDK 8, of course. So these changes for these two builds are making them indistinguishable. The idea is that before JDK 8, the Oracle JDK and OpenJDK had some specific differences. And starting from JDK 9, Oracle committed to make those differences go away, in that they're implementing the notion that these two repositories of code should maintain the same guidance, the same structure in all of its internals. And what they are going to do is that they are going to provide some specific added features to their customers, And what they will be focusing on is giving support to those who are paying for the contract support. And what that means is that these paying customers will be receiving security updates and backport fixes, for example, much earlier than users on the community. So if, for example, you don't have a support contract, you have a few options. And for example, you need something to be patched in the JDK, then you can just wait until those patches are made public, or you can just make those patches by yourself. For example, if they are made public in the repository, but there is no other release made available. Or you can just acquire a support contract and tell Oracle, okay, I want this fixed now, and you can go ahead. Or you can go to any of the other providers as well. So this also means that there will be no more public updates after 6 months. So keep this in mind. It doesn't mean if it's a long-term support release or not. So for the Oracle JDK, there will be updates for the after 6 months. That means that if you're using Oracle JDK 11, and since it was released in September, then next year after March, the JDK will keep receiving updates. But since now it has a license requirement to use in production, you won't be able to use it. On the OpenJDK side, that means that even the JDK 11 will stop receiving updates in a while. I think now after December, it will still receiving public updates. So this means now that you have to think about how to continue updating the JDK in your environments. JDK 8 now has been granted a long-term support release with some specific requirements. And the idea is that it will keep receiving free updates until January of next year. So that means that you can keep up to updating your JDK 8 installations in any environment that you're using, either in production or development, and it will not be incurring on any license violations. But after January, you have to stop that auto-updater, and keep in mind that if you keep receiving updates, you will be incurring on a violation if you're using that JDK in a production environment. That also means that there will be a maintenance support for JDK until 2020. This is only for personal users. That means that if you're using JDK 8 for your personal environments, that means you are developing with it or using it with an IDE, you can keep going to the website of Oracle and download the JDK, or keep your auto-updaters going on and updating that JDK until the end of 2020. But if you're using that on production, then you will be incurring on violation for the agreements as well. So that means that if you want to still keep using this JDK for an Oracle, you will have to purchase a support contract from them. And that is where this makes things a bit uncomfortable with most of their user base. So this is where Zulu JDK comes along. So Zulu JDK is a fully certified JDK. And by fully certified, it means that it passes a series of certification tests made available by the community. That means that anyone that is certified by this by this certification test kit, it's implementing a completely secure implementation of the JDK, and means that it will behave in the manner that it has been determined in the specification. It is completely 100% open source. That means that you can go and see the source code because it has been forked from OpenJDK, and it's produced by and maintained by Zulu Systems. So Zulu JDK is available, and you can just go to the what is it? You can just go to the website of Zulu Systems and just download Zulu because it's free to use by anyone, either in production or development environment. There are community builds available. And you can just download it for the environment that you're using. If you're using Windows, Linux, or macOS, then you can just get the same binary builds that you would get from Oracle, but instead these are provided by Zulu Systems. So they offer two types of builds: the community builds that I mentioned that are free for all. They will have public updates until the OpenJDK stops updating. So since these are forked from OpenJDK, remember that OpenJDK started from JDK 9 will receive updates only for 6 months. So after those 6 months, the same Zulu JDK community build will stop updating. It doesn't matter if it's a long-term support release or not. It will only receive updates for those 6 months. But they are free for all, so you can just use them as you see it fit. But if you're a paying customer, for example, you're using a long-term support release like JDK 11, you can just pay for Zulu Enterprise, which is the commercial offering. That includes security fixes, security updates, and backward fixes. They are maintaining Java 6, which is a really old version that has now stopped supporting, receiving support from Oracle, but they are still maintaining it. And they are going through 7, 8, 10, and 11. So for example, you're still using Java 9, which has stopped receiving public updates, and you need to have something fixed, you can just acquire a contract from Zulu for Zulu Enterprise, ask them to implement a fix or backport a fix that has already been implemented for your specific JDK version, which would be 9, and you will receive an updated version at some point, which is only available for you since you are paying the support contract. And they have 24 hours, 7 days of support like us. And the idea is that you can call to them anytime that you have a problem with the JVM. Either if, for example, you're suffering from some garbage collection algorithm that is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, or if you detected a security vulnerability and want to establish if it's something that needs to be patched or not. So you can just call, raise a ticket on the system, and they will gladly fix them for you and implement that in the next update of the JDK kit that you're using. So this is we come along. So starting from this year, we are offering an OpenJDK support option for all of our customers. And this consists of these 4 points. 1, all customers will have access to Zulu JDK, Zulu Enterprise JDK bills. So if you're one of our customers, you can just receive these Zulu JDK bills. They will be provided by us. That means that you can just go to their website and try to download it from their private repositories, because they're only available for customers of them directly. So if you're one of our customers, you will be receiving these updates and these bills directly from our repository offerings. So they are completely free of use to be, they are completely free of use in either environment. If you're using production or development environments, you can use them without any worries to incurring on violations of the agreements. You will receive continued updates for JDK 7 and 8. So remember that at the start I mentioned that Payara 4 is still compatible with JDK 7. Well, then you will also, if you're one of those customers who are using JDK 7, you will keep receiving updates for this kit that is usable with Payara 4. And for both 4 and 5, for JDK 8, you will still keep receiving updates on any level. So if, for example, you need to have a security vulnerability fix, you will be receiving those updates as part of the new builds that we make available. Also, you will also receive access to 24/7 support on part of the tier of support that you're using, and you can raise issues for these low-level JVM details, as I was mentioned. So, for example, you're using a Payara server with an application that you're deploying, and you are perceiving that there is a performance issue and your application is not as responsive as it should be, you could raise a ticket, for example, and ask us if this is some specific fine-tuning that needs to be done. And what we do is to defer those specific queries and issues to the technical staff on Azure systems, since they are a really good team of experts, and they can help us completely fix your details or give you advice and recommendations on how to implement those fine-tunings. And lastly, you can also request backport fixes and security patches. So for example, let's say that you're running on a specific obscure framework on Payara server, that it's having an issue with an older version of the JDK 7, for example, and you want, that has already been fixed in one of the latest updates on, let's say, JDK 8, and you want that backported to your specific version, then that's something that you can request as well. And you will receive an updated build with those fixes and patches that you are requesting. But keep in mind that this JDK support is only available for Payara platform. That means that if you're using either Payara Server or Payara Micro or Payara Embedded in deploying your applications in your environment, or if you're using our Archelian suite of connectors, or the cloud connectors available for Amazon Web Services, or our Docker images, then you can use the JDK builds of Zulu Enterprise and raise issues about it. But if you're using, for example, a separate server, application server, or for example, you're using no application servers or some specific other frameworks and raise issues about it, then we just won't provide any support for those solutions. So keep that in mind. It's only for the Payara platform. Also, we have no JDK 6 available builds from them. They make this available for customers, but since we have no compatibility with JDK 6, then there's a moot point to offer the binaries. So keep that in mind. And also, we don't provide macOS support. That means that we only provide binaries for Linux and Windows environments. But if you're using a macOS environment, then we won't offer either support. That means we are raising issues, nor the JDK binary is compatible with those. So those are the 3 fine print points that you have to keep in mind when acquiring the support. But in most cases, these are not a problem. Okay, so having said all of this, you have to decide how to prepare. Now that JDK 8 support is ending next year, you have 3 options. So either you switch to OpenJDK and migrate every 6 months, because you will have to keep migrating from every release in order to stay updated with the latest implementations for the JDK. But you have to keep in mind that if you're using Payara, then you won't be able to do this because Payara is still not compatible with JDK 11. So you will have to stay in JDK 8. So you can stay on Oracle JDK 8 and don't update at all after the next, after January next year, because updates won't be available for production and you will be incurring on a license violation. So you can do that. That is a fine option. You have to update your environments in order to stop the updaters from doing the job. And you have to update your policies in order to, okay, we're staying in this update. But you have to keep in mind that there are risks of not updating that JDK installation, because if there is a security vulnerability that is not patched, it could be taken advantage of by the dark world of the internet that we live in. So you could get hacked or you could get compromised in some specific circumstances. So that's a risk, inherent risk to have. Or you could pay for commercial Oracle JDK support. So that could be a bit expensive if you weren't having a support option before. So that also comes with a catch, because you will only receiving updates until 2020. After that, Oracle JDK 8 will be entering extending support. That means that they won't update on explicitly requested by their customers. So you won't be receiving public updates, so you'll still be in a bit of a risk area to consider. So Payara Enterprise makes all of this easier because you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If you acquire an enterprise support contract, you will not only receiving support for your Payara platform environments, but you will also be receiving support for the JVMs used to run them. So it will be a cohesive solution. You don't have to worry about 2 different things that need separate support. You will be worrying about only 1 environment that it will be receiving support via our offering. So the catch is that you will be getting OpenJDK support at no extra cost. You won't have to pay a penny for it. And there are no licenses for it. So you can just download the binaries and use them. So that is no problem at all. And any issues that you have, then it will be fixed by us, either through our direct support or via delegating our support to the association staff. So in order to illustrate this is the Payara Enterprise lifecycle. This is a diagram that explores how our current solutions will be supported through the following years. And there are some lines that are parallel showing the support for the corrective JDK kit that we have talked about in this webinar. So for Payara Server 4, you can see that support is ending next year. That means that customers that are using Payara 4 will be entering on a maintenance period from 2019 to 2022. And the idea is that we will only be implementing fixes, but no new features for that. So the idea is that next year we'll start helping customers that are running Payara 4, that if they want, they can migrate to Payara 5 as soon as they can, in order to keep receiving new features. For JDK 7, they will be receiving fixes until 2023. The idea is that that is the official end of updates period that association is offering. And for JDK 8, you will be receiving updates until 2025. So this is longer than the preceding period of updates that Oracle is proposing for the JDK offering. For Payara Server 5, it will be the same, but now Payara Server 5 will be receiving updates until 2023. and new features as well, and it will be extending a maintaining period until 2026. And Java 8 is still having the same life cycle, but for JDK 11, since it will be starting to be supported next year, we'll be receiving updates until 2028, since it's a long-term support release. So you can expect almost 10 years of support for both the solution of the application server and the JVM usage around it. So this is a really good offering. I'm not talking about our competitors because that's outside the scope, but I think that it's really good, really good catch that you have though. So any questions? I think that we have a few questions already proposed by the community. So let's go with them.
Fabio, there's just also a comment and a question that's just popped up as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it in the Q&A bit at the bottom. Richard Rokowski, he asked about OpenJDK for Solaris 11.
Oh, sorry, let me see the question. What is it? What is it? What is it? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, OpenJDK for Solaris 1186. So there are instructions on how to implement that. The OpenJDK should be compatible with that environment. Zulu has offerings for that on for the commercial customers, I think. But on our agreement for Payara support and for Payara Enterprise support, there is not covered for that. We could make exceptions if it's requested or making them compatible throughout the Linux builds that we had, but no. So I think that for Solaris, you have to go from a specific provider that offers commercial support for it, because no other providers in the business offer it. At the moment, I can't recall from the top of my head who is offering. I think that only Oracle has it. But aside from them, no. I think that you could just go from Oracle directly, or you could just ask Azure systems if they're thinking on offering support for it. If you acquire support contract from us, then we can make an exception, but that would have to be discussed priorly.
Okay, and then Derek Lauro in the comments, so chat section, he just says he's been able to run Payara on the JRE all this time, and he hasn't needed the JDK yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting thing. Technically, there is no difference between the two. The JRE is the same, are the same binaries included in the JDK. It's just that the JDK is usually used to implement the development, or is used to implement or develop the solutions that you're using. That was only until JDK 8. From 9 onwards, since now the JDK itself is modularized, I think that there is no difference. You only download the binaries. The runtime itself, it's used completely different. It's now completely the same for the development kit, starting from JDK 9. So there will be no actual difference between the two of them when using them in any environment. The idea is that when we start implementing JDK 11 support, then you can just download the JDK itself and implement it to use with Payara. So yeah, there should be no difference.
Okay, and that's Jeff. Just all the questions we've had at the minute. So I'll let you get back to the ones we've had earlier.
Okay, let me know. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
I had a hiccup there. Thanks, PowerPoint. Okay. So will security updates for Oracle JDK long-term support releases versions like Java 11 be freely available for more than 6 months, 3 years? Yes, but only for support customers. So you will have to pay a support contract, and if you want to keep receiving updates, then you will have to pay Oracle for it. Or if you're using any other provider, you will have to pay that provider. That is the main difference between what we had now and what we had until Java 9 come along, and we will have with the current situation. Because before, you could just keep receiving updates for a long period of time and be able to use them. But now the idea is that long-term support releases are just marks for providers to keep offering support for their customers. They don't have to do it for free. Some support providers may do it, but it's not a guarantee, and it's not something that you should expect. Because the idea is that those updates will be made available to the public at some point, but there's no guarantee when. So you will have to, if you want Solarity, then you will have to pay for it. Okay, next question. Which IDE does Zulu Enterprise work with? Does it work with IntelliJ, for instance? Yes, it works with IntelliJ, and Zulu Enterprise is no different at all from OpenJDK. And OpenJDK itself has compatibility with all known IDEs. So if, for example, you're using NetBeans or Eclipse or IntelliJ IDEA, then you can just use Zulu with all of them. Maybe also if you're using just Visual Studio Code, or maybe just plain text editor in order to implement your solutions, it will work. So there's no worries on that. It's like any other JDK available in the market. And since it's certified, which is one of the main selling points of Zulu, then any issues that should come along should be patched fast. Does OpenJDK for Azul use the same source code as Oracle? Yes and no. It uses the same source code as OpenJDK. And since that's a fork from a repository that it's virtually the same repository used by Oracle, then they are using the same source code. But you have to keep in mind that the source origin of all of these solutions is the OpenJDK itself. Oracle contributes to it. So any code that Oracle is contributing to it, it's been dumped to this repository, and Azul is taking it. So if, for example, Azul does a fix that Oracle hasn't been made or hasn't implemented yet, it will be contributed to OpenJDK at some point. The idea is that it will be made available to customers first, but it will be available at some point to the public repository. So Oracle may benefit from those fixes made by Azul, or maybe by other vendors in the market as well. And this leads us to our next question. Where do the Azul OpenJDK fixes come from? Do they come solely from Azul engineering team? The idea is that fixes that are critical to solve, yes, they will come from the engineering team, because that's what they are for. They are paid engineers that are ready to go and fix things that customers need to have implemented as soon as they want and as soon as they need. And they will contribute that to the upstream repository at some point. But other fixes could come along from the community or other vendors, since the OpenJDK repository from Zulu is also open source. So they can just go to the repository, make a PR about some things. And if the engineering teams curates those PRs and they say, okay, this could go into our binaries, then they could just create those reviews and those fixes and commits, and they will be made part of the binaries as well. So they don't come solely from the Zulu engineering team. Critical things that need to be fixed and moved will come from the Zulu engineering team, because that's what they are for. So keep that in mind. Okay, so do we have other questions? I think you're mute, Jalen.
Yes, so I am. No more questions from the chat or from the Q&A section.
Okay, so to wrap it up, a few days remain until JDK 8 support is dropped, so you have to choose wisely. My recommendation is that if you don't know what to do, at least keep in mind that you won't be able to use up to updates with JDK 8. So try to switch to OpenJDK, and for your applications, take some time to plan how to do that switch and see if your applications behave in the same way, if there is no performance drops, if there is no quality drop in the behavior of those applications, and stay there. And if you're using or considering using the Payara platform, think of the added benefits of Payara Enterprise. So you will have access to a JDK that it's fully supported, so you won't have to worry about any of that. So you can just think about moving to Zulu, and if you have any issues, then we as a service to you will fix them for you. So thank you very much. If you're using the Payara platform yet, please download Payara Server or Payara Micro. It's completely free to use. And if you need support for it, well, go to this link here for the support Payara Enterprise Edition, and let us know if you're thinking about coming on board. So thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Fabio, and thank you everyone who came along. Like I said in the beginning, we'll be providing a recording of this, which I'll email out, and I'll also put up on the website on our blog, which will just be hosted on YouTube. So thank you very much. We'll probably stop the recording and then close this down, unless there's any other questions. So feel free. Okay. Well, awesome. Thanks very much, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording then, unless anyone else wants a question. Okay, fantastic. All right, thanks very much. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good time. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.